Cajuns Gerry Glasco takes a Texas Tech job. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, we'll start off with Gerry Glasco. That news broke last night, or 2 nights ago, actually. And then first thing yesterday morning, it was confirmed. And then we'll get to Arkansas State and talk some football about the Red Wolves. But first, I got to say I'm a little bit shocked that Gerry Glasco ended up taking the Texas Tech job. On the surface, without knowing anything, Sun Belt versus Big 12. There's more to it than that, and there may be much more to it than that. To begin with, the Ragin Cajuns are bringing almost everybody back. They lost Sam Grader, who was a reserve outfielder, and Locker, who graduated. So all of the starters, both pitchers, more than 2 pitchers coming back. And if you just add a couple of players, that's the year. 25 was going to be the year that the Ragin Cajuns get back to Oklahoma City. All right. That was going to be the year. Now, they fell short this year. They actually didn't run out of pitching. They ran out of defense, which kind of faltered a little bit down the stretch, the Sun Belt Conference tournament and in the regional. They didn't get, a lot of times when they would lose to LSU at the end, they would run out of pitching. They lost to Baylor 4-3. It wasn't pitching. But they had everybody coming back. And so I thought maybe he would stick around one more year, kind of do the Napier thing, dip his toe in the water, see what's out there. All right. Not the case. I'm also told, and we'll find out probably next week when they announce it, I could not find out how much the previous coach at Texas Tech was making. I don't even know how much Gerry Glasco is making. As far as I saw, Glasco had his contract extended after 2022, but making the same $170,000 that he was making when he got here. All right. They just kept on extending him. So maybe got a little bit more money at Texas Tech, but I was told he wasn't. He didn't. That's kind of the surprising thing. Texas Tech is a struggle. I know there's no Oklahoma anymore or Texas anymore, but this has not been a winning program whatsoever. They've had 3 winning seasons in conference play. 3 since they started back in 1996. They won 10 games in 98. They won 10 games in 2001. And they won 13 games in 2012. It's not a winning program. They won 8 games this year in conference. Went 8-16. And again, I know the top of the Big 12 is outstanding. I get it. Cajuns won 22. If you don't take this year, all right, and I was looking at the stats from their record book, take 24 off. You go from 23, 22, 21, 19, and no, they didn't play any Big 12 games because of COVID in 20. But they won 21 games. In 19, 21, 22, 23. Combined, in 4 seasons, they won 21 games. The Cajuns won 22 in conference play this year. It's not even a rebuild. It's just a build. Gerry Glasco is going to Texas Tech to build the program. I wish him the best of luck, but I feel like there is something else that we don't quite know yet. And I don't know. And for those who don't know, people here in Lafayette do, and softball people do. First of all, I took over in a tough situation when Michael Lateef was fired. All right. And then he's raring to go for the next year. and his daughter was killed right before the season started. I'm talking about like that week, something along those lines. It could be as simple as something like that. And obviously, if it's just trying to get away from the place where your daughter was tragically killed, then it's as simple as that. It could, and obviously, there's no criticism. I don't know if I want to criticize Gerry Glasco to begin with. For the Texas Tech fans, by the way, you're getting a straight shooter. Gerry doesn't know how to do coach speak. He will tell you what he's thinking. He doesn't do coach speak. He may tell you too much about what he's thinking. So you're going to love him. All right. You will love him in Lubbock. But I don't know if there's something else going on here that he thinks he can win in Lubbock more than he can win with the Ragin' Cajuns. Maybe it was just, I mean, I can't compare it to Texas Tech because they don't win at all. That there's so much pressure to schedule difficult because the Sun Belt itself won't carry you. Although this year you had 3 teams, right? Texas State and South Alabama. I feel like there was a 4th. Maybe not. That make it. But you need to make sure that you schedule difficult because that's the way you're going to host, right? And, 2 seasons ago, they didn't host because they didn't win some of those games. This year, they beat LSU at home. And they beat Oklahoma on the road. And obviously, that was a huge win to snap their 71-game winning streak. But other than that, I don't know if there's NIL money, how much they're going to invest. I mean, this is mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. The 2025 Texas Tech softball season will be the first in the history of Red Raider softball where they sell season tickets. You go, I think in years past, if you've gone to a Red Raider softball game and you get an argument on the field, you can hear what they're yelling about. That's the best thing about Cajun softball is it a little cultish. I don't mind saying that. That may be softball in general. But they are super passionate, and it's a different fan base than the baseball. All right, baseball's got their fan base here. Softball's got their fan base here. And it doesn't matter how cold it is. You're going to find, it may not be sold out all the time, but you're going to get 800 to 1,000 fans most nights for Cajun softball. And then when it's a big ball game and it's the weekend, it's going to be filled up. And that's not going to be the case at Texas Tech. So I do wish Gerry and his wife all of the best. Good luck to them. I think they're going to need it. Quickly, who do the Cajuns go after? Found out some history today. That was outstanding. Allison Habitz would be the I don't know if it's the leader in the clubhouse per se. A couple of things. I didn't even find out she's been at Alabama for a bit. She retired to take care of her family. She played softball and basketball for the Cajuns. Played professional men's baseball. So she's a trailblazer. I don't know if she wants to come back and coach. I don't know what her family situation is. So Kevin Foote put these names together. Rick Freeman from Southeastern, James Landrino from McNeese, Howard Dobson, LSU assistant, Mark Montgomery, former La Tech coach, Mike Roberts, former UL pitching coach. You wonder, right? You got a couple of assistants, Shelley Landry taking over now for the time being for the Cajuns. Who does Glasco take? Does he take a couple of people from the Cajuns? I don't know, right? And of course, Cajuns fans are concerned, and probably rightfully so, which players are going to go to the Big 12. Because I presume, and if I'm the players, I make sure I get this in writing one way or another. If I'm leaving the Cajuns and you're going to promise me NIL money, I better get it. better sign something and make sure I understand what I'm signing. That was the big news on Wednesday night and Thursday in the Sun Belt. Ragin' Cajuns softball coach Gerry Glasco taking the Texas Tech job. I would say I was a little bit surprised. It was not confirmed until Thursday morning by Kevin Foote or most, but others went back and said that he had accepted the job on Wednesday. So that doesn't really matter. But other than I look like an idiot, which also doesn't really matter, because I said Thursday morning on the Schulte cast that he'd come back. I thought he would. Thought he's dangling his toe in the waters, but would come back. And again, we'll find out if it's something more than just his daughter, which is pretty big reason, actually. That's plenty reason for me if he needs to get away from Lafayette for just that reason. All right, let's take a time out. Let's move on to football. A lot of expectations this year for a lot of teams. JMU, but they're good. App State, they've been good. Cajuns, they've been good. Texas State, on the scene last year, they win a bowl game. But you know who hasn't been good recently? That's Arkansas State. Can the Red Wolves live up to what could be lofty expectations? We'll talk about that next, right after I tell you about Gametime. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. Now, I'd use it for the NBA. We used it for, would have been Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Pacers and the Knicks. Had a great time. Surprised my nephew. He loved it. And it's a pretty neat experience to go to an NBA playoff game. It's been a minute since I was able to do that. With last-minute deals, you can save up to 60% off buying for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Flash deals. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. A couple of the best parts are the seat views. You can get the panoramic view in the app and see what it looks like from where you would be sitting in the app. The lowest price guarantee or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, LOCKEDONCollege, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. We are heading up to, we're hoping, humidity-free central New York. I doubt that's, well, we don't know. They actually had a heat wave this week. So we will be doing it either from my bedroom, Mama Schultz's deck, or Otisco Lake. So we'll see where we can get some Wi-Fi out there. See if we can get it to work so we get some nice scenery in the background. All right. So one of the teams that is up and coming, and I think I talked about this in the Schultzecast, which you're welcome to subscribe to on YouTube, is that the odds makers see Arkansas State, but they want them to prove it. Show me that you're good. All right. And it's going to be up to Jaylen Raynor to take that next step. As a true freshman, he had a pretty good season. As a true freshman, 17 touchdowns. Now, I didn't start the season, right? It was game 3. He came into Stony Brook, and it was only 4 of 6 for 78 yards and a touchdown. So he didn't even play very much in that ball game. But he threw 17 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. They like to cut down on the interceptions, but that's not that bad as a true freshman. 58% completion percentage. That's pretty good. And 2,550 yards. He also ran for 373 yards and 5 touchdowns. So he had, I thought, an outstanding season. Although he was inconsistent, which is what you would think you would get from a freshman quarterback, right? Against Southern Miss, 52%. You beat UMass, 80%. And then against Troy, which is really good defense, 55%. Against Coastal Carolina, 54%. 50% against ULM, although he threw for almost 300 yards. Against UL, he ate him up, 64%. And then back down to 53%. Did not play very well on the road. Let's see if we can do his splits. Because I don't think he did play well on the road looking at those numbers. Not as bad as I thought. He played more on the road, as it turns out. 100 for 178. 1,500 yards on the road, only 56% completion percentage on the road, but 11 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. At home, almost 62%, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I mean, his ratings are good. I mean, you get the rating and the QBR, and it makes my head hurt. So we want to see Jaylen Raynor kind of take that step forward to be more consistent. Not quite what I would say, what I was hoping for Levi Lewis in his 3rd year. And remember, he had 2 years of experience, 2, before he started every game, right? Like HUD took the red shirt off of him, but then he got hurt, so he was redshirted anyways. And then, or else maybe the COVID year. He got an extra year because maybe the COVID year. And then he played every 4th series. And so I was hoping that he would be more, I guess for lack of a better phrase, consistently great. And he wasn't. He was consistently clutch, and that's why they went 13-1 and had a record-setting season, Sun Belt Conference champions. I'm going to look for just Jaylen Raynor to be consistent. We'll worry about being consistently great in 25. But he needs to be much more consistent and not one week throw 15 for 30 and another week throw 14 for 17, right? That's what you're looking not to do, right? And he struggled in his last 2 ball games. He lost at Marshall when he threw for only 50%, 35-21. That was on the road. And then he lost in the bowl game where he struggled. He was 16-30. I think the game that I remember watching was against South Alabama, and he just didn't look very good in that ball game either. He was 15-28. So I'm looking for big things, and again, to be consistently, just to be consistent, not even consistently good, just to be consistent. You just don't want those highs and lows. Sometimes you fight it. Sometimes you're not having a good game, and you end up battling through it, and you make plays at the end, and you end up winning, and then you come out and said, I was just, grinding through it, trying to keep my head above water, and we finally got it clicking at the end. So I'm going to look for Jaylen Raynor to take that next step. And if Jaylen Raynor takes that next step, Arkansas State could challenge the Cajuns or Texas State in the West. I still think Texas State and the Cajuns, as of right now, are your clubhouse leaders with Texas State up top. But if Jaylen Raynor takes that next step to where he is, above 60% completion percentage and not on those highs and lows, and take that next step with touchdowns, I mean, can you imagine if he does 25-10? That'd be pretty good. 2.5 to 1. That would be pretty good. And throw for about 3,000 yards. That'd be nice. All right, so let's talk about those expectations for Arkansas State when we come back. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your team every day. Channel continues to grow. Really appreciate it. Up over 1,270 subscribers. A little bit odd that more subscribers are subscribing when I don't do an episode, which I'm not going to take that personal or anything. But I do appreciate it. We are starting to talk football again. Although we started this episode with softball because that was the big news. But really do appreciate it. We're going to see if we can get to 1,500 by August 31st. See if we can get to 1,300 in the next couple of weeks. So please let people know. See if we can hit our goal. Would be appreciative. We're only, as of this recording, need 28 to go for 1,300, and then we'll need 100 in June and 100 in July. So we'll get some guys on here to preview, the beat writers and the radio broadcasters to preview the season. We'll get Phil Steele back on here to do the season. Really looking forward to it. It's going to be an exciting Sun Belt season, and I appreciate everybody's support. See if we can get to 1,500, and then by the Sun Belt Championship, hopefully 2,000. I mean, if you're not setting lofty goals, what are you doing? So we'll see if we can do that. Thanks so much. Let's get back to it. Can Arkansas State live up to the expectations? All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. What are the Arkansas State expectations? Maybe they're in my head. Because when I got here, they were pretty good, right? We had Brian Harsin and Gus Malzahn and Blake Anderson, and that was the real rivalry for the Cajuns. Blake Anderson and Mark Hudspeth did not like each other. The Cajuns in Arkansas State did not care for each other at all. And another tragedy, Blake's wife was sick. We all know that, and unfortunately she passed. The program took a hit because he was, concentrating on his wife, as he probably should have been. And Butch Jones has had to rebuild the program. And he had a really couple of nice recruiting classes to begin with, but it hadn't really paid off yet until Jaylen Raynor showed up. And, we had Butch on, and, why didn't you have Jaylen start the beginning of the season? And I forgot they played Oklahoma, and we don't want Jaylen Raynor killed unnecessarily. Does not need to be the sacrificial lamb in this ballgame. I'm not sure he made all that big of strides, between the end of camp and, the third week of the season, but let's not try to kill the freshman before he gets a chance to play. And so now again, the expectations are they're plus 1,200 on the odds. I find that really high. Their win total was 6.5. I find that odd, right? Cajuns, JMU, and Texas State are 8.5. App State is 7.5. App State, when the odds came out, were your odds leaders, like plus 350, plus 360. But it feels like Arkansas State, as I mentioned before, the odds makers are like, we see you. We're just not quite buying in right now. But let's see. Let's see what we can get. Let's see if we can check in on FanDuel here. Let me see if I can get on my phone too. What they are now, necessarily may have to log in, and that could be a problem. Oh, no, we don't have to. Okay. My phone's going to die too. Let's see here. Explore. Let's just do Sunbelt. Let's see if we can do Sunbelt. Sunbelt Conference Championship winner. Show all. Arkansas State is still plus 1,200. It has not changed. App State's plus 350. That's changed a little bit. Texas State was plus 550. That's plus 470. Cajuns have dropped to plus 600. So Arkansas State still remains 1,200. This is where we're going to see we got a big step up last year. Let's see what they did quickly. From the last couple of seasons, because obviously they went bowling, a tough loss, had an onside kick that they recovered and they didn't give it back. They went for 2 on the play before and they didn't get it. I want to see what they were in 22. What were they a couple years ago? They were 3-9. And this past season, they finished 6-7. So they went 6-6. So, they doubled their amount of wins. they doubled their amount of wins. And they started out, remember, I mean, maybe his job wasn't on the line, but certainly that seat had to be getting warm. When you lose 73-0 to Oklahoma, okay, we'll take that with a grain of salt. But then 37-3 to Memphis, right? You haven't gotten in the end zone, and you're being outscored 110-3. I don't care who you're playing, is going to get a little warm under your seat. But then they turn it around, right? Stony Brook win, Southern Miss win, UMass win. Losing at Troy is not awful. They gave Coastal Carolina a ball game. That was at home. I think they came from behind to beat ULM. They did beat the Cajuns. That was a big win. They lost to South Alabama. That's probably the one where they were like, ouch. They just didn't play well because South Alabama they didn't play well last year. Got a little embarrassed at Marshall, and maybe a good learning experience. And then they had a good ball game. They were playing in Montgomery. But a good ball game, losing 21-19 to NIU. So, again, with Jaylen Raynor, it's trying to be consistent. And then let's see, because Butch Jones had some really good recruiting classes, and they're finally on the field. I mean, that is, it's one thing. Always, you see their recruiting classes, like we're going to do the 24 recruiting class. Well, those kids aren't getting on the field. You're going to be lucky if somebody gets on the field from the 24 recruiting class, right? The kids that are going to be on the team this year, you're not going to see them for 2 or 3 years. It used to be 3 for sure. Let's see what we got here. Sun Belt. All right. So let's see here. Well, 21 in the Sun Belt. All right. He was 6th. He had 18 commits. I'm not sure if that's fair for him because that would have been his first year. He was 2nd in the class behind Marshall with 20 commits. That was 22. And 23 would have been he's got. So 21 is tough because that's when he got the job, which Jones we're talking about. But he was 2nd in the conference in 22, number 1 in the conference in 23. We can look what he did in 24, but again, transfers may come in, but the freshmen probably aren't going to start. And he was 3rd. So he's got a 2, a 1, and a 3. They're pretty well set for the next few years. If they can keep him. I don't know who's transferred out and everything like that. We're not going to look at that right now. So they're pretty well stocked if he's kept those players. Can they live up to those expectations? Again, Jaylen Raynor takes that next step. I think the Cajuns and Texas State got to look behind him a little bit. I'd be disappointed, barring injury. I'd be disappointed if I was Arkansas State if I didn't finish 3rd or better. Now, the wild card with all of that is not even South Alabama. We just don't know what we're getting with Troy. We don't know who the quarterback is or how good the quarterback is going to be. Who's replacing Vidal, who's replacing Lewis. That's the thing. So Troy, the 2-time defending champion, is a little bit of a wild card, at least for me. All right. We don't quite know. The other ones, I think I got a good idea, but I just don't know what Troy is going to be. You would think they would take a step back, but not necessarily so. The last guy who took over for him won 2 championships. And so, but he was coming in with a talented team, obviously, and a lot of that talent, except for a certain linebacker, was back for a 2nd year. So we shall see. Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in. Wrapping this up, kind of a softball and football podcast. Gerry Glasco off to Texas Tech. We'll find out who the Cajuns are going to hire. Maybe they'll have somebody here by the weekend. Maybe we do a special one over the weekend if they do. And talking a little Red Wolves football. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Dave Schultz, and you've been listening to Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day.